Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. I'm Anthony Giuliano, and my guest this week is Paul Branks. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Anthony. I really appreciate you having me on your podcast. Looking forward to our discussion.
Well, I appreciate you doing it. You come very highly recommended from Mike Fulton. He's had the pleasure of working with you, and I hope working with Mike has been a pleasure for you.
It has indeed. It's been a long-standing relationship, and he's just a great professional, and the Asher Agency has been a huge partner for us, and we're grateful that partnership is continuing.
Well, great. And I'm almost tempted to stop the interview right there. Quit while you're ahead, right? Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk a little bit about you and your background. And Paul, we generally start on the podcast by talking about our guest's career path. My understanding, if everything on LinkedIn is correct, it looks like you went to Taylor University. What I'd like you to do is tell me a little bit about what led you to the path that you pursued in college, and then talk a little bit about where you went from there.
Yeah, I can really root back my career path all the way back to an eighth grade school assignment, where we were asked to write about what we wanted to be when we grew up. And there were two things that I wrote down. I wanted to play second base for the Detroit Tigers, and I wanted to be a television anchor. And so the dream of playing second base for the Detroit Tigers obviously didn't work out, had no chance of working out. And so I went back to plan B, which is a career in television broadcasting and communications. And so my course was set from eighth grade, and everything I did through high school and into college was all to get the training, the education that I needed, and the experience to get that first job in broadcasting. And so once I graduated, that's what I pursued, and ended up starting out in radio, and then took it from there.
All right. Well, somewhere Lou Whitaker is breathing a sigh of relief that you didn't pursue Plan A. So tell me, what was appealing about that career track? Eighth grade is pretty early to come to the realization that you know what you want to do. So what led you into the world of media and communication?
Well, I think it was just the ability to express yourself in different ways. I was a pretty outgoing kid, and in many ways sort of a show off, and I got involved in things that I got to do what I loved, and really enjoyed it. And so as I thought about a potential career, I wanted to get into things that allowed me to speak, to write, to communicate in a variety of forms. I knew that there were a lot of opportunities in the communications world that were open to me and to other individuals, and so I liked the flexibility of it and the different options that there were, in addition to just being able to do a job that you enjoyed and could impact a lot of people.
All right. Well, it looks like your career path, even though your original interest was in broadcast journalism, it looks like you never really went in that direction. Can you talk a little bit about why you pivoted and where you pivoted to?
Yeah, I think after college, I did have a couple of radio jobs, and started working while I was in radio part-time with the NBC affiliate in Fort Wayne, and did some videography work and some reporting and some set pieces there. And then, like a lot of people, life changes, things change. I got married, I had started a family, and really enjoyed my time in broadcasting, but was looking over the long term on what I wanted to do, both for my career goals, but also for the benefit of my family. So once I was able to achieve some of the things I wanted to achieve in television news, I decided I wanted to try the other side. And so I pursued other opportunities that allowed me to work on the corporate communications, the public relations side of things. And so ended up making the jump by working in politics for a bit as a press secretary. And then from there, I got into real corporate communications with the Indiana Association of Realtors as their director of communications. And then from there, it was just pursuing, the next best opportunity that allowed me to expand my experience and my skills. And so I've been very fortunate to steal a line from the Beatles. It's been a long and winding road, but I don't regret any of my stops because I was able to learn something new and expand my skills and take on more and more responsibility. So it's been a great ride.
Yeah, and some really prestigious names among the stops along the way. Anthem, One America, some pretty big, powerful, complex organizations. I'm sure that there were a lot of lessons learned there along the way. Well, let's talk about the work you're doing today for the American College of Sports Medicine. It looks like you've been there for about 8 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, 8.5, sure.
So what led you into that position? What was your entree into that world?
Well, I worked in both the nonprofit and the for-profit world over the course of my career. And I really, as I got further into my career, I got to the point where, I really could look for jobs that I wanted to do, not that I needed to do. Through most of your career, you're looking, like I said, for the next best opportunity. You're looking to take on more responsibility. You're looking to, achieve different things in your career. And so for the majority of my career, that's what I was doing. But when it came to the American College of Sports Medicine, it was an opportunity where I decided I loved working for member associations. I loved the ability to focus on the organization's vision and mission. And being, as I mentioned earlier, a sports fan, I was really drawn to the nature of what the organization did in terms of exercise science and sports medicine. And it was very attractive to me. And to be able to lead a communications team and then a marketing team for this organization was just very appealing. And so I accepted the job and haven't looked back, and I've enjoyed every minute of it because, again, even this far into my career, it has given me the opportunity to continue to learn new things, expand my skill set, and be exposed to different parts of the marketing communications profession that I haven't seen before.
So, Paul Asher, as you mentioned, has had the pleasure of working with the American College of Sports Medicine now for a few years. But for those who may be unfamiliar with the organization, tell us a little bit about what ACSM does, what the mission is, and how you fit into that in your role.
Yeah, so the American College of Sports Medicine is the largest member association of its kind in the world. Founded in 1954. It has grown exponentially over the last several decades, starting out, as the name would indicate, as a U.S.-based organization, but now we've expanded around the world to some 100 countries. So we have an international reach. But the mission of our organization is really about taking scientific research and applying it to different settings, whether it be, the bedside, or whether it be in public health, or whether it be in taking the research and educating the next generation of researchers or exercise physiologists. Our organization really, from start to finish, it's really a sort of a linear process where our members are in the world of discovery and finding new ways to exercise safely, new ways to be able to impact the quality of a person's life through exercise, new ways to ensure athlete safety or recovery, all the way to how do we find new ways to use exercise to help people recover from accidents or illnesses, or maintain their health while dealing with chronic disease. And so there's really a broad reach, broad spectrum of areas that our organization and our members really impact in a positive way, including programs that help to ensure safety and health of young athletes, all the way to senior citizens who need to remain active. So how do we help individuals across the lifespan know the best way to find health and quality of life through exercise?
So, Paul, how has that work changed over the course of the last few years? You have something that's not an immediate sea change, but you have an aging population. You have, high incidence of chronic disease. You have a more sedentary lifestyle. One of the things that COVID did is allowed us to get unhealthy food from anywhere at any time without moving much. So we're becoming a little more sedentary, much to our peril. How has the work changed at all, if at all, over the course of the last few years?
Well, I think we've really had to, amp up our efforts to continue to communicate the same messages. The message really hasn't changed over the last 3 years. It's really about reinforcing or reminding people that there are different ways to achieve good health or better health. And even in the case of COVID, we found that regular exercise, helps contribute to better health or the maintenance of health in a variety of ways. And even through the COVID pandemic, it was clear that those who were healthier as a result of regular exercise were in many cases able to ward off viruses of all kind or sicknesses of all kind, just because of better health helps contribute to a better immune system. And so through the pandemic, and particularly with our fitness index at that time, we were just really continuing the drumbeat of how important it is to remain physically active at all times and in all circumstances, both now and in the future. Physical activity and exercise is an investment in your future. And regardless of one's current health situation, there is, virtually no situation where it wouldn't be beneficial to be physically active in some way. So movement is important. We continue to communicate that message. Our members are continuing at the work of researching new ways, finding more evidence of ways that we can, again, apply that knowledge in people's lives on a regular basis.
So you mentioned the American Fitness Index, Paul. Tell us a little bit about what that study seeks to uncover, how it's conducted, and how you disseminate that information.
Yeah, so the American Fitness Index is a program, an initiative, a strategic health initiative that we launched in 2007. And the purpose of the Fitness Index is to gather the data from a variety of sources that captures more than 30 health indicators, both personal and in communities, that can be put together in a ranking, an index ranking of the 100 largest cities in the country, that helps cities, getting back to the real point of the Fitness Index, is really to equip cities and city leaders to understand the general fitness of their community and ways that they can help improve programs and infrastructure to help their citizens stay active, be active, and contribute to their overall health. And so the rankings, which we distribute in a release once a year, really gives the nation and the cities on the list an idea of where they stand, where they're doing well, and where they can improve. And so it's really the process of, because we are a research organization, is providing the data to help cities and individuals understand better ways to health.
So, Paul, what's an example, either something that's actually been put in place or something that could be put in place by a city in response to the index, something that a city could do to encourage better health among its residents?
Yeah, we've worked over the course of several years. We've worked with different cities who have wanted to work with us based on the data in the index to put together programs within their communities that help them to improve and to hopefully move up in their rankings. And so, looking at the indicators, and that's why with more than 30 indicators, you really have a lot of segmentation that you can tap into to say, hey, you know what? We've got an issue with obesity in our community. So that's an area that we really want to hone in on. And so how can we pull together community leaders, policymakers, government leaders, and others to work together in a collaborative way to put together programs and opportunities and assistance to get individuals to be more active, and so that those numbers of those obesity numbers can be reduced in their communities. So we've seen cities put together plans and programs and working with their city officials to find ways to be able to make that happen. Now, it's not an easy thing to do. A lot of the things that are required from an infrastructure standpoint, for example, require a financial investment, and that's difficult these days. But it does take collaboration. It does take a lot of forethought, a lot of planning, a lot of intensive thought and decision making in order to make strides. But what we want to do, again, is to provide the data and the encouragement to these cities and city leaders to take at least the first step toward better health and fitness.
Well, and what impresses me about it is it's data that allows leaders to see this as an investment instead of a cost, to say, if we don't do something about it, and it looks like from a glance at the latest index, Indiana has a lot of work to do, but it looks like it gives leaders the chance to say, okay, we can either, pay now or pay later in terms of the cost of chronic disease and illness among our population, or we can make some investments now that make it a little easier, a little safer, a little more accessible for people to stay active.
Yeah, and I don't think it's. I think people understand, cities, community leaders, those that have a stake in this, understand the importance of it. I don't think that's. I don't think that's the issue. I think everybody can understand, particularly at the city level, that if we have a livable community that's allows, encourages, inspires its citizens to stay active, whether it's bike paths, whether it's access to parks, whether it's fitness opportunities, businesses, or it's little league, whatever the case may be. I don't think the issue is people don't believe or understand how important that is to a community. It's just a matter of being able to have the ability to work together, to put a stake in the ground among a lot of other priorities that they're dealing with, to say, we're gonna commit ourselves to this over the long term because we do see the benefit. We do see the benefit of having a livable community. We do see the benefit on property values. We do see the benefit of drawing new business into a town if it has these attributes that contribute to a livable community. So it is important. I think people understand that. There's just a lot of challenges to it, and it just we're trying to help these cities deal with these challenges by giving them the data that they need and the vision for what can be possible if positive steps are taken.
Well, the index is just part of the work you do. It's an important part of it. What else has consumed your attention recently? I know you recently just got a promotion, so that's obviously taking up a lot of your time, is learning the new job. Congratulations on that. What are some of the other things that are at the top of your to-do list that are taking up most of your bandwidth these days?
Yeah, so in my role in communications and marketing as well, we're a shared service, a shared resource within our organization. And so, getting back to our earlier conversation, one of the things that I liked about even getting into this profession remains true today. I get to be involved in a lot of different things. Never get bored. There's always a great deal of variety. You get to get your hands in. Get your hands in everything. And I like that part of it because it keeps the job, very exciting, keeps you energized, and you're never bored. So in that role and in my role now, the same is true. We basically serve as an internal agency for our organization. So we provide communications, strategy, and consultation, everything from strategy all the way down to implementation. So we support every organization within ACSM, whether they're revenue generating or not. Every department has its respective goals that tie to operating objectives and the strategy of the organization. And so much of what we do is to help support those different departments in the achievement of their goals, because ultimately, if we help them achieve their goals, the organization will achieve its goals. So we work with our membership area. We work in executive communications to ensure that our organization is in the loop, is aware of where our organization is going. We encourage two-way communications in that. We have a number of committees and committee members that are active participants within our organization that we're communicating to on a regular basis. We're responsible for internal communications, for our staff communications. It's critical that our staff have what they need, both in knowledge, in information, in a clear view of where we're headed, that they're equipped to do their job, that they not only enjoy their job, but are engaged in doing the work in an enthusiastic way. That's critically important to the success of an organization. So the communications department is responsible for ensuring that our staff are equipped with the information that they need to do their jobs. That line of sight to the vision of the organization is very clear, and what their role in that is clear. And then there's the external side of it. So we're responsible for public relations and media relations and telling the ACSM story to our external audiences. We have a number of partnerships with like-minded organizations who are committed to the same thing. And so we have a mutual vision in what we're trying to accomplish. And so we work with these partners to make sure that we're helping one another to achieve our ultimate goal, which is to keep people moving so that they're really experiencing the benefits of physical activity and exercise, that they're safe while they do it, and that they're achieving what they want to achieve in whatever area of life they're involved with. So we tell our story to the media and to the public. We're helping to communicate our members' research. We have several scientific journals that we publish that publishes the work of our members and others. And so as we do that, we want to make sure that we're sharing that research because, again, it's all about the application. We want to make sure that we're sharing that as broadly as we can. And so we help our members promote their work and advance the science that they're contributing to our individuals and to communities. So it's we really are involved in a lot in telling our story internally and externally. And so it's an enjoyable job, and it keeps us busy, and um, we're really having a good time.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of variety. And if you're looking for something to do, just turn to the left and there's another task. So congrats on
Exactly.
the new job.
Exactly.
Well, Paul, I want to pivot to a few final questions. And this is what I call the quick hit part of the show, although it doesn't necessarily need to be quick, concise answers, although it often goes that way. I want to start with a question about your career. What's the one best piece of advice you have for others in the communications field, in the marketing field, or really in any field when it comes to career success and fulfillment? What's the one thing you've learned that you'd like to pass along?
Yeah, I would say to those that are just starting out in their career, jump right in, get as much exposure as possible to the different functions within, in my case, marketing and communications. It's the baptism by fire idea. That's the way I started, and it can be crazy and it can be hectic, but once you dive in and you get that exposure to all the possibilities, how marketing and communications work, because again, even within marketing and communications, there's so many different specialty areas you can pursue, and so you're not really going to know that until you jump in and get that exposure. So earlier in your career, don't be afraid of the unknown. Get yourself out there, be willing to work hard and to get that exposure, volunteer to take on new responsibilities. But you really need to get that big picture to get a sense for what you want to do with your career, both in the short term and the long term. So I would encourage people to be assertive and to get as much experience as you can, as quickly as you can, and allow that to really fuel your passion for what you ultimately want to do down the road. And that can take you in a lot of different ways. You could have a very specific path that you want to take, say in social media, or you may have a broader view or bigger goals of being a manager, a supervisor, a director, overseeing a whole department. Well, the best way to do that is to make sure that you get as much experience in all these different areas as possible so you have a knowledge of how that works. And if you do that, then you'll be very well positioned down the road to pursue what you really are passionate about.
Well, I think that's a great point. A lot of people early in their career, they kind of wait for, the right time to come. They wait until they're ready. It sounds like what you're saying is the best way to get ready is to just jump in. That's going to give you experience and then you'll be equipped for the next opportunity. But if you just sit on the sidelines, you're not going to get very far.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And there's an epiphany that I had about mid-career that I've really tried to apply even now, which is, pursue the things that make sense, but be open to the things that don't. And what I mean by that is, you've got an idea of what you want to do. You have the desire, you have the talent, you have the skill to do that. And so you might pursue that based on what you know, but be open to things that maybe you haven't thought about before. Maybe you are focused on this particular function, but if you have an opportunity to add to that or to take a position that maybe you really hadn't thought about, but is going to open the door to a lot of other possibilities. Be open to things that maybe don't make sense from your way of thinking at this point in time, but don't limit yourself. Keep the opportunities open, because again, the more experience you can get, the more you can build your skills, the better off you're going to be.
Well, it's really good advice. So the next question I have, Paul, is about the work that you do, and it could be your organization, it could be what you do every day. What's a myth or misconception that you want to clear up, or maybe something that is underappreciated that you'd like to amplify about your work or the organization you work for?
Well, I think it's just it's the critical role that the marketing communications team has within an organization. I've had a long career, and I have been able to see that over time, organizations in general have really grasped the value that marketing and communications professionals bring to an organization. I think in a lot of organizations back in the day, that really wasn't the case. I think that there was a perception that, marketing and communications were more of a nice to have, not a have to have. Well, as we have seen things progress over time, and I've seen a lot of change in marketing and communications over the course of my career, a lot of adapting to new technology, new ways to communicate, and it's all been very good. But as things have evolved, and as organizations have had to evolve themselves in order to just compete, and in some cases survive through things like pandemics, they're really starting to understand that it is critical to have skills and expertise in the area of marketing and communications that are foundational to the success of the organization. And at the American College of Sports Medicine, I have seen that in very real terms, that there is a recognition and appreciation for what we can bring to our organization. And I think that is not just true at ACSM, but in case there are still some remnants of those who might have that perception, I at least want those that are working in the profession now, or maybe early in their careers, to know this is a critical role. And because of this thing now that we have access to all kinds of data, we can actually demonstrate the value of what we do over and over again. And so we've got the validation more now than ever that we've had, even through data and metrics. And so that's what I would say.
All right. Well, yeah. So making sure that your marketing communication folks are at the table when decisions are being made, helping influence those decisions. All right. Well, that's good news for me as a marketing communication person. So I love that
Absolutely.
advice. All right. The last question I have for you, Paul, has to do again with your work, but this time what I'm looking for, and this is a little bit of a wild card. I get a lot of different answers to this question, but I'm looking for a tool, a tip, a trick, a hack, something you use in your work that you rely on, that you think deserves to be mentioned. Now, I've had people say everything from Google, which is pretty simple. We take it for granted, but it's a great tool. I've had other people talk about apps. What's the one thing for you that you rely on in your work every day that you think is worthy of a mention?
Well, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, Anthony, but as I think about that, to me, it is, the old school is the new school.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, as I said, I've seen a lot of change in marketing and communications over the years. When I started my career, there was no email, there was no website, there was no social media. So I've seen a lot of change. I've adapted to it. I've been able to incorporate these different tools into how I handle marketing and communications, and it's been fantastic. And we obviously can be very effective. But at the end of the day, it's interesting how people thought print was going to be dead. People thought that email was going to be a thing of the past, and what we're finding is that that's not exactly true. And it's interesting, as we've done the research and as we've looked how effective target emails are to what we do. And really, if you dial that back a little bit, what it continues to be about is audience segmentation and targeting of key audiences. And so that fundamentals remains true. Now, we do have a lot of tools on how we can do that more effectively. We do have dynamic content. We do have social media. We have paid social media. I think, and again, this isn't going to be earth-shattering, but I think getting back to the tool, one of the things that we've really invested in hard over the last couple of years is digital advertising, for a lot of the same reasons. Mm-hmm. That was something that we had to slowly come over because we were doing social media.
Yeah.
We were able to reach some of our audiences through social media, but as digital advertising grew, We really understood that, this is the way that we can really, really get, because, as a membership organization, we have a captured audience. It's just, it's the external audiences, it's the potential members, it's the potential certified professionals that we want to reach. And so how do we do that? That universe is very large. Well, we can do that through digital advertising. And so we've really invested a lot in that recently, and we've seen the benefits of that. So again, I just want to reinforce that, while we look for new ways to do things and new tools, don't forget the things that still work and the things that have been enhanced over time in terms of the ways that we can communicate and market. And then finally, along the same lines, that this is less about a tool and more of just about, how we behave. But, having conversations with individuals about projects, about their needs, about their goals. It's very easy now, particularly post-pandemic, as everybody's gone home. We're working, through Teams or Zoom or something else. We're virtual, or we're just DMing people, we're messaging people, and what I found is, while that's important and it plays a role and we can be very efficient that way, it's still critically important for marketing and communication professionals to collaborate with other departments, the people that we support, and to have actual conversations to really understand. And now it's easier now to get together occasionally, to sit down face to face and talk about, what are your needs? What are your goals? What are we trying to accomplish? How can we do that together? And that still remains a critical part of how we can do our jobs, and an effective way to do our jobs. And we've been able to see the positive results of that.
Yeah, I think that's an important takeaway, is that, we have more ways of doing the work than we've ever had. And while face-to-face communication isn't always the best way, and while we're certainly glad to have alternatives, one of the things we've learned over the past couple of years is it definitely has its place, and it has a quality that other things just can't replace. I know for the first time ever, Asher did a team retreat that was everyone in the same place at the same time. And we'd never done that before. But I think, the outcome of the pandemic was almost a renewed sense of urgency about, maybe we don't do that as frequently, but when we do it, it's got to be for the most important conversations. We have to take it seriously. So I think what I hear you saying, and I think it's a great takeaway, is that use all the tools, but remember that the where we're going is where we've always tried to go. It's about great storytelling. It's about connection. It's about understanding the audience. It's about targeting the right audience. And one of the ways you can do that that's irreplaceable is just by having conversations, ideally face-to-face conversations.
Yeah, you summed it up very well. And I would just add back to the tools is, the tools are great. But, I think we do have to be cognizant of the fact that we might be over-tooled. Yeah. We've got so many options and so many tools, and there's all kinds of project management programs and software, and organizations can end up with multiple versions of that, and everybody's using something different. And what we're finding now is that we got to consolidate. We got to be, efficiency is a big word for us now. We have to be efficient. And what we're doing, that means we have to start, we have to decide what tools are we going to use, and let's use those well. And so it's all part of change, Anthony. It's just new things are coming all the time, new technology, new tools, new opportunities. And so I think there's oftentimes it's like, we got to keep up. So we have to jump in and we have to use everything that comes out. And, it's probably not the case, because what you want to do is you want to find the things that work for you and then use those really well, and not in a half-hearted way. You don't want to spread yourself too thin.
Sure. Well, I'm from a similar vintage. I remember a time when if I wanted to communicate with someone, it was face-to-face, phone call, or mail. And we certainly have moved well beyond that, in some ways that are really good and in some ways that present real challenges. So,
right.
it's a different day and we have to adapt, but we also have to remember what's most important, and that is, just the connection. You can do that in a number of different ways. Well, Paul, I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to do this and us having the chance to talk in more depth. It's been great getting to know you, and thanks for sharing your story with our audience.
Well, thanks for having me, Anthony. This has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it, and I appreciate talking to you, and wish you and everyone well.
Well, thank you. And thanks to everyone who took the opportunity to listen to this episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We'll be back next time with another great guest, and we hope you'll join us then.